Welcome to Tamra Talks, where we embark on a journey to explore the triumphs of extraordinary individuals across 6 key life areas: emotional, physical, spiritual, relational, financial, and professional. Through candid conversations, we uncover the pivotal moments and influential figures that have sculpted their path to success. Listen as we delve into the essence of confidence, discovering the inner workings that empower these remarkable individuals to achieve greatness. Get ready for inspiring stories, profound insights, and actionable wisdom as we celebrate life's victories and unlock the secrets to confidence together. Now, to the host of Tamra Talks, author, speaker, and executive coach, Tamra Gaines. Today on Tamra Talks, I'll be interviewing Beau Lewis, who's retired Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Master Chief. He joined the Navy out of high school and retired in 2023 from Navy Special Operations after 23 years of service. He completed 6 deployments, 4 of those deployments as special operations, and received numerous personal, unit, and campaign awards. His first civilian job after retirement was as a director of operations of a private school in La Jolla, California, which he recently left to move to Nashville, Tennessee with his family. In a time of such change in the workplace and in our workforce, I'm curious about the impact to our military who, after serving our country, find themselves in the job market. And Beau, I'm thrilled to have you share with our listeners about your journey. And, as a military brat myself, with many family members that are connected to various branches, I thank you for your service and also for your time today. And, before we get into any challenges that you might currently be facing, with this recent retirement and kind of getting back into the workforce, help me first understand, what drew you to joining the Navy, and most especially the position of EOD and working with explosives.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. Love to be here. So I don't have a clear cut, I wanted to serve my country. I fell into the category of I didn't know what I wanted to do. And that's kind of followed me throughout my life in the different phases. But when I was at that pivotal finishing up high school part of my life, I knew I didn't feel I was mature enough to go to college at the time. I felt like had I gone, I would just fall into that, horsing around, not taking studies seriously. And I wasn't really interested in going to school full time. That's evolved, over the years, but at the time, it just didn't interest me. But my mom wanted me to go to my high school college fair. So I went, and the night that I went, as I walked into the building, the first room I went into just happened to have the military recruiters, and the first person that spoke to me was the Navy recruiter. Long story short, go Navy. But when I was looking at the jobs, they asked me, what my interests were. I come from the country, so guns were interesting to me, and then they introduced the concept of blowing stuff up, which also interested me. So I applied for that and got it. Now I didn't get there at the very beginning. I had a couple hurdles, but I was given a second opportunity later in my career that I took, and I wanted to be able to go back because I didn't make it through the first time and try again. I knew more about the career field, later in my career when I tried the second time and adjusted a couple things personally that set myself up for success to make it through. And I couldn't have picked a better career field. The adventure, the opportunity for travel, the way it set me up for civilian life was I can't say enough good things.
That's fantastic. And I like too that, it's It's nice when things are easy, but then when you can look back and realize that, okay, I had some failure, but I overcame, and here's how I did, because those are the growing moments, right?
Yeah,
Those are
absolutely.
the times and the life lessons that really make us better people, make us better leaders. Um, in the opening, I had mentioned about retiring as special operations, and I'm curious, like, what exactly does that mean? And kind of relate it to even maybe your skills development or how you attained that designation.
Sure. So what does special operations mean? You're going to be put generally in more austere environments. You're going to be there with not, I would say generally, you can go in some special operations community where they have a ton of additional support just based on an uh, I would say like an elevated mission set or a more important mission set, if I could just distill it down. But you're generally out in small groups and expected to figure problems out. So very strategic. You have to be very adaptable. Communication is paramount when you're out by yourself and having to communicate up to your chain of command, as it's called in the military. um, you have to be able to operate independently. Your leadership has to have trust in you that you will figure out and accomplish the mission successfully.
Yeah, well, that's great. And so obviously through all of this, you've learned a lot of skills, and you've talked about being a strategic thinker as well. So like, what challenges are you facing now that you're, leaving this chain of command and this sense of structure that's in the military is known for, now that you're getting into the job force? What are the challenges? And then how are you prepared to kind of tackle those challenges?
Well, I guess off the bat, one of the things is, how do I relate what I have done to what the civilian equivalent is of that, right? And just learning that new lingo. Um, but the real challenge for me is to get the people that I'm speaking with to understand that what I have done is what they're looking for. And that has been very challenging. Like you said, the structure of the military is the phrase you use there. And there is a perception that that's all it is it's structure, and you can't think outside of the box, and you have to be given an order to follow an order. And I know in my case that couldn't be further from the truth. In the special operations community, you refer to each other on a first name basis for the most part. Obviously, if you're talking to somebody very senior, you'll use their rank, but within the platoons, it's all on a first name basis. It's, hey Beau, can you give me this, or can you do that for me? And there is no rank. Everybody knows who's in charge, who's not, and you don't have to say their rank. So that in and of itself kind of removes a bit of that structure that everybody sees. Yes, Master Chief, no, Master Chief. It's not like that at all. And because of that perception in the civilian world, it is very difficult for them to then think, well, if he did operations management in the military, that directly translates, because there, it's something about, there's just this block of, well, they did it in the military, it doesn't translate. And I guess the frustrating part of that is you would take an operations manager from FedEx and bring them over to Wells Fargo because they did operation management. Um, Yet from the military to any one of these corporate America uh, businesses, there's a disconnect there. So big challenge, I guess, in short, is getting the corporate side to understand how those skills translate.
Yeah, and I know, a while back I was kind of looking at how I was going to be able to transition from something that I had been doing for 30 years that was really solid on my resume. And I was, also in my history is the education and the development of others and the coaching and the training, but it wasn't the thing that my resume was known for. And so as I started looking at how to move forward with that, I really had to focus on what are my skills and the competencies that I bring. And so I would imagine that you're having to do that too, because you just said that's how you're having to kind of use this new language in your job search, if you will, is don't look at title to title. Let me tell you my capabilities. Let me tell you my skill set. And then from that, we can talk about, how I can provide solutions to your problem or to your need. Do
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
see that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I talk a lot about is core values. And I believe that we all have, core values. It's what helps to drive our path in life. And so I'm curious, can you think of, at least one core value that you have and maybe how it has, kind of shaped you?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely got a few. Honesty and loyalty are at the top. Humor actually is up there for me as well. But I can, I was raised in an environment where honesty was all that was accepted. I mean, you don't lie about anything. Loyalty, I saw, in my parents, and I didn't. It was one of those that wasn't defined, one of those core values that wasn't defined, but you look back and think, the relationships with people and how they treated family members, friends, um, and just how loyal they were. And it's like, well, of course that would be a core value of mine. And then within the special operations community, your reputation is everything, and that is based largely on honesty, loyalty, performance. uh, so it makes sense that I would fall into a community that values stuff like. And then humor, my whole life I love joking around. How I love how humor, even in the worst situations, you're in combat and it's like, man, I don't know how this is going to turn out, and somebody drops a joke and it just completely lightens the mood. And it's like, all right, this is where we're at. How are we going to get out of this problem? Um, yeah, love adding humor into everyday life.
I love that too. And, when you think back to, 23 years ago before you joined the Navy and you think about those core values, that you had then, right? You may have discovered them a little bit more through your time in the Navy. But, now when you look at how you are approaching, in this particular case, most imminent job search, but, leadership and management in the civilian workforce, um, which core values do you think you're going to lead with?
Well, in my last role, you mentioned I was director of operations at a private school. Um, Honesty and loyalty are at the top, 100%. And I think the good thing about that is it's very recognizable from the outside in. When you see somebody that is honest and loyal, it's very easy to spot, and people often gravitate towards that because they know that uh, you're not going to sugarcoat anything and tell them what they want to hear. You're going to give them, hey, good or bad. I'm going to give you an honest answer, and we can go from there on how to solve whatever issue we're having, or loyalty. I'm not going to go behind your back and spread rumors or do something that would jeopardize our relationship. You can trust me. And I developed some great relationships with my peers there in a very short amount of time, because they saw that I'm not somebody that's going to work against them. Not only am I going to work with them, I'm often going to find ways to try and work for them to help them along as well.
Yeah, that really breeds trust, right? And I mean, when you are in a work environment and you have that level of trust, it really creates a great working culture. And it's so important right now because, to your point, like there are people that are doing a lot of the work around and, just to be upfront and be authentic and in the workplaces is a great thing. And so that leads into kind of influence and confidence. And you come across as a very confident guy. And I'm imagining if you're blowing stuff up, you've got to have a level of confidence with that. But can you share a pivotal moment or experience or person that's had a great influence in your life?
Sure. Well, actually, I mentioned I didn't make it into special operations at the beginning of my career, and I failed a run by 15 seconds, and I was then I got a job out in the fleet, as we say. I ended up on a ship, and that's what I told myself for years. I failed a run. I just failed to meet the cut, and I was gone. But what and it took me 7 or 8 years to then get a chance to go back. But that was only part of the story. What really happened was I failed to run by 15 seconds, pulled me out, offered to roll me back to the next class, and I said, "No, thanks. I'll go to the fleet." Um, so that for me was incredibly pivotal because it really showed me how easily it is to not be honest with ourselves. I I gave myself the easy answer of I failed to run, but left out the part of I quit. I didn't just fail to run, dot dot dot. I quit. Uh, so I had a plan B when I went into that program. Hey, if it gets hard and I don't make it, I'll go to the fleet. Like that interests me because I'll get to work with just guns. And I actually tried to drop my special operations contract because back when I first went in, you used to have your trade first, and then you would go to your special program. 20 years ago, the Navy flipped that to where you go to your special program, and then if you don't make it, they offer you the trades that they want you in, which is smart on the Navy's part. But when I went through my trade to begin with, I found it more interesting than what I thought I was going to be doing. Um, Tried to drop my contract, didn't work out. So my outlook was, well, if I make it, I make it. I'm not going to put any extra effort in. I'm so glad it didn't work out because that's a horrible attitude to have. And as an instructor, years later, I wouldn't want anybody in the community that had that outlook. So that did a number of things for me. One, like I said, it showed me how easily it is for us to lie to ourselves. So not only is honesty in other people important to me, it's important in myself and help me throughout my life up to now be very honest with myself, and able to look at things and say, well, no, you're doing this or you're not doing that. It really galvanized me to not quitting. I'm not going into anything with a plan B. If I commit myself to something, it will be fully, which I wasn't doing then. I was 19, so different outlook. But that and at the end of my career, I was recruiting SEAL candidates that were dropped from the program and that the Navy still wanted to keep in the special operations community. So I would go over there and I was able to share my story. Not only was I recruiting them, but I was also, they had a quick turnaround. They failed out of BUDS, which is the SEAL basic underwater demolition program to get into SEALs. They failed, and then I was bringing them into my special operations program that they had maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I would ask them, why, what happened? Why are you here? Why did you quit? And I would listen for them not being honest with themselves and stop them right there and give them my story so they understand how easy it is to lie to yourself because they don't have the 7 years that I had to change their mindset and understand what happened. They've got 2 weeks and they're going to be back in another program, and they need to be honest so it doesn't happen again. So yeah, very, very pivotal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And how great that you were able to identify, kind of that moment and that learning, and how you were able to then transfer it over to be learning for others, maybe on the front end instead of them having to
Yep.
learn that on the back end. And I mentioned earlier, you come across very confident. And so where does that come from?
Um, I would say, I wasn't always, um, I guess, as confident as I am now. One, I would say maturity, experience. Two, when I first joined the Navy, and in preparation for this, I was kind of thinking back on my experiences. Um, I was not willing to raise my hand. Hey, can I get a volunteer? I wasn't as willing to raise my hand and volunteer because I was worried I would fail in front of people. And it took me 3 or 4 years of being in the Navy to realize I would much rather try and fail than just be sitting in the back thinking, oh, I could have done that. So I think just a repetition year after year after year of trying something, succeeding or failing. I mean, it wasn't all success. And understanding that when I succeed, it just gives me that much more experience, that much more confidence. And when I fail, I can understand why I failed. And then I'm just going forward more confident with that experience as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I like that a lot. And through that confidence, I shift now into kind of balance and well-being. It's certainly something that is a very prevalent topic in corporate America. People tend to be doing more with less. COVID certainly shifted some of the ways that we do business. Remote, it's changed. Our workforce has changed. I mean, there's just so much change going on, and so I'm curious with your recent move from California to Tennessee, which I'm sure that in and of itself is a culture shock, a culture shock. But then also with the job search, when you think about it from that standpoint of balance and well-being, how are you handling these changes?
Well, I've only been here for a couple weeks so far, and I'm living out of an Airbnb with a family of five and 1,000 square foot house. So it's a little tight. We have none of our stuff, so it's interesting. But I'm treating this as a deployment, and deployments are all about establishing a routine as quick as possible, and then just following that routine. Um, as far as the culture shock, I mean, I'm very big on people are people are people, no matter where you're at. So looking at a different job market, it's the same thing. Network. Here in Nashville, very important to make sure everybody doesn't know you're from California. That's a big. They're not too happy about everybody from California moving here, so I have to say I was stationed there. I didn't live there. But yeah, it's good. Very supportive family. I can't say enough about how wonderful the family is, which makes things so much easier when my wife is able to manage the kids while I'm looking for a job. And yeah, it's just that grind of looking for a job in a new area. The good thing is when I left the military, or as I was transitioning out, I got with an organization called the Tamra Foundation, which I owe so much to. They are a transitioning program for people in the special operations community, so EOD, SEAL, Green Berets, MARSOC, any flavor of special operations, and those who support them are able to go into the Honor Foundation, and they are networked across the country. So I just got with the Nashville head of the Honor Foundation, and through him, he has networked me into a number of people, and Josh Birch, I'll give him a shout out, but just a wonderful person, wonderful organization, and that really has helped that transition.
I like that. Yeah, it's I often say who's in your circle. And so it's great when you've got those valuable people that are in your circle, and hopefully when this airs and goes out within my circle that you'll expand yours even more.
Yes, yeah.
Um, so when you think about like what can employers do to better support veterans during this type of transition, this job transition?
Uh, Hire them. One that'd be good. I think understanding that I would actually say if you don't understand the value of a veteran, which is fine, it's just the inexperience or the I don't know what they bring to the table. Have a veteran help you out. Get with a veteran that can then open your eyes up to what kind of a force multiplier they are, because they have, when you hire one veteran, you're getting somebody with almost all of them have some logistics experience, some HR experience, medical experience. A lot of the enlisted folks these days are coming out with bachelor's degrees, if not higher. I was able to get my master's, my MBA, before I left the service. Any officer you hire is going to have a bachelor's degree. But if you don't know what a veteran brings to the table, get with somebody who does, so you can really open your eyes to the possibility that you can bring to your business.
That's great feedback. And are there any, policies or initiatives that employers could consider or that might need to change to make a difference in that hiring or in connecting with veterans?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, tax incentives for businesses are always nice. That's something that maybe the government could look into. Creating policies within your organization to hire, a percentage of veterans is also something that I think is really easy to do in practice. But again, then it goes back to how are you going to actually employ that policy effectively? Because it frustrates me when I see a guy, a dear friend of mine, Todd Neal, got his MBA from USC and still has problems getting into corporate America with 30 plus years of special operations experience, a USC MBA, and it's just so difficult to network into those positions. And he's just one example of many people that I know that have superior qualifications and are being offered entry level jobs. It's frustrating when you've got that, you've worked for that long, and the best offer you can get, an offer I got is, hey, maybe you can get a explosive dog and work a canine, at this large defense corporation. I was like, I'm not going to be the guy with an MBA working a canine, but thank you for the offer.
So you've established what you won't do, which
Yes,
clears
yes,
you a little
yeah.
bit further for the things that you will do. In your bio, I shared that you've had 6 deployments, and I know that coming from a military family, that not all deployment is sexy or a lot of fun. But when you think about where you've been, are there any locations that you would go back to for
Oh,
for fun?
I love to travel. So yes, absolutely. I've Antarctica is the only continent that I haven't been to. So I've had a wonderful career traveling the world. I would say United Arab Emirates are always nice. Dubai, they like to overdo things there. That would be wonderful. Europe, would love to go back to Europe. I would yeah, I would almost say any place that I have that I've been to, I would be willing to go back to. There's a couple, maybe Iraq. I've checked that box. I'm good there.
Yeah, exactly. And it might be the difference between whether you go by yourself or whether you take your family of 5, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So now as we're wrapping up, Beau, I'd like to ask, what are you watching, reading, and or listening to?
Yeah, man, we're watching just about everything since I don't have a job with the kids. But yeah, I love listening to audiobooks. I just finished The Light Switch, which I guess is a modern day interpretation of how to win friends and influence people. But it's by a guy named Jack Schaefer, who was an FBI behavioral analyst. I love the psychology of people. How can I break that stranger barrier into getting you into my inner circle as quick as possible? And he goes over some nonverbals and stuff that you don't think about how you carry yourself. And I love that sort of stuff. So I'm always trying to learn more.
That's fantastic. Well, Beau, thank you again for your time today. Thank you for 23 years of service that you've given to our country. And I wish you the best as you continue your journey. And I feel confident that you are going to have no problem landing exactly what you're looking for. So thank you again for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining Tamra Talks. We hope that you will support our channel with your subscription. To connect with Tamra, that's me, visit my website at tamragaines.com or my Facebook page called Pillars of Confidence.